Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron and I am back with Battlytics mega awesome Fafner action coming in tonight. I'm so excited to do this mech. So many people have asked for this mech, the patrons asked for this mech, so I said fine, I'll do it, all right? It's got 2 heavy Gauss rifles and other stuff, but who cares? What else do you need besides 2 heavy Gauss rifles? This thing is an absolute beast, but it's slow. And heavy Gauss rifles, you know, they're not like super great at long range. They're devastating in close, but you know, we'll see. So very curious to see how this one does. It's not cheap. You know, I think it's what, 2663 or some 2636, something like that. I'll tell you in a second, but it's expensive. It's in the 2600s. And it's slow, you know, so we'll see. So I'm very excited to do this one. I hope you're excited to see it, guys. Stay tuned. It's coming right up. Here it is, the Fafner FNR-5. This is the original gangster Fafner. This thing was built in 3063. What's interesting about this one, speaking of build dates, is if you go to master unit list, it's like gone. It's like gone in like 10 years, I think, and like the after the whole Word of Blake nonsense, like it just disappeared. That can't be right, but it shows as extinct. I like to believe that it stays around forever. I know the Thor's Hammer heavy Gauss rifles apparently are very difficult to acquire, and so they make some variants that don't have them. My personal favorite Fafner is the one with 2 regular Gauss rifles, but after I did the AC-10 Hunchback and everybody got mad at me, I decided to to do the heavy Gauss Fafner. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. So let's talk about the Fafner. So 2636 battle value. I was close. I think that maybe I said that. 2636 battle value. It's not cheap. I mean, it's not like Stone Rhino territory, or maybe it is, but it's pretty close. It moves really slowly. It has just 10 double heat sinks, so dissipation of 20, which is more than enough, as you'll see. Those Gauss rifles barely build up any heat. It does have a standard fusion engine, like thank God, and has only endosteel. It doesn't even have ferrofibers. And maybe that's because they couldn't fit it with the heavy Gauss rifles, but I'm good with that. Regardless, it's got 100% armor coverage. That is 19 tons of armor. It's basically wearing a Locust for this is wearing it for armor. So that is 100% coverage. That's really fantastic. It has no hand actuators and no lower arm actuators. So this is like little, like sort of medium laser turrets for arms, and they can sort of spin around. You can arm flip with them if you play with that rule in Classic, which is kind of neat. So again, weaponry, let's talk about it. Twin heavy Gauss, 1 in each torso. These are not split between the arms. I mean, these are squarely in the torso. An ER medium laser in each arm, and then a medium pulse laser in the head. It also has a Guardian ECM suite in the center torso, and it has case in both side torsos. Remember, with a Gauss, any Gauss, light, regular, heavy, it's the weapon that explodes, not the ammo. So that's why the case is located in the side torsos alongside the weapons. The ammo's all over the place, arms and legs, weird. You know, I guess it all feeds into the side torsos there. But according to the rules, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I read up on this, you can feed anything to anything. So basically if your ammo in your left leg gets hit, or whatever, your left leg gets blown off, you can still feed your left torso Gauss rifle from your right leg. There's like ammo feeds going everywhere. I don't know. But that's the Fafner. So I'm excited to dig into this one. Offensive benchmarks coming up. Well, let's take a look. Woo! All right, look at that. Look at that damage. That is a beastly amount of damage, and you can see the sort of the major inflection points in the damage curve, where the Gauss rifles, because it's variable damage, basically. Every time you get into a new range bracket, it does more damage. It does 10 at long, 20 at medium, and 25, I believe, at short. is how that works. Doesn't ever build up heat. You can just do whatever you want there. And it does 296.7 points of damage across every single benchmark. So that is pretty substantial. Now, what was interesting to me is in the lethality index. It actually did not kill the javelin every single time. It only got 93.1% kills. Most of the time, it was coring out the center torso. I was actually really surprised there were not more head kills, considering you're doing 20 points of damage at medium range, but it was only 14.5% on the head kills. The other interesting thing is the damage per hit is not very high, 6.7 on the damage per hit. So, again, the Gauss rifles do 10 points of damage at long, and it does not until they get into medium range, which is, I believe, 13 inches, that you're jumping up to 20. So there's a substantial period of time where you're only basically shooting 10 points of damage, like a PPC for point of equivalency there. Doesn't do a ton of criticals. It's about average what you see, 3.5 per game. Like, that's pretty average. And then the time to kill was about 10, which is also about average there. So it does a ton of damage, but I think it's so concentrated, it's probably ripping off arms, ripping off legs, and it's just not generating those kills. This is the type of thing that just blows holes in mechs, but doesn't have enough, long-range firepower to necessarily close the deal on its own. At least that's my assumption right now. Now, I will say, looking at, our benchmarks across the board, there's only one mech that did, one inner sphere mech that did more damage than this. And that was the King Crab as the 001, which I believe is the Clan Buster with the twin Gauss rifles. The next closest thing was the Marauder 5S, which is 273.8. So this thing definitely is no joke in terms of damage, but was interested to see how the lethality, simulation worked out. So let's take a look at defensive. It's got 100% armor. Will it survive? Let's see. Well, that looks pretty good. 0.1% motive hits. There's good luck hurting the legs on this thing. So not only is the armor astronomically high, but the right and left legs both are packed out with heats, actually with Gauss ammo, I should say. So there are 6 of 6 slots filled in each leg. So even if you get in the leg, there's a 33% chance you're going to hit nothing, inert ammo, basically. Survivability looks great. What's fantastic is you notice there's 0 ammo kills. Now, in this case, it would count a Gauss rifle hit that took the mech out as an ammo kill. But again, there's no engine criticals in those side torsos. So that damage, which what is it? I don't remember off the top of my head. It's either 20, 25 points of damage from a heavy Gauss explosion. Whatever that is, it is contained, which is a great thing. So it's not spilling over and killing the mech. The majority of the kills, which is only 4.3%, are from center torso or head kills. Very rarely a 0.5%. So, again, one in 200 games type of thing. You're seeing engine kills, like somebody's generating 3 engine criticals against this thing, or you get really lucky on your first turn and you roll double ones and then roll torso and then roll a 12 on the crit confirmation and engine. Have you ever had that happen in a game? I have. Very unfortunate. So happened to an awesome for me. It was very disappointing. It was like the second turn too. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. What do you even do? You just throw your models on the floor and quit. I digress. So this thing looks really well in terms of survivability. It looks like really, really good. It did a ton of damage. It survives, which means you're going to get basically no damage loss, but it still costs 2,600 BV. Let's take a look at efficiency. All right, so here we go. Not bad, 7.87. So this one is also really, really good. This is a great buy. This thing is going to get you return on your investment, no doubt about it. So again, only 2.1% damage loss. That's not bad. Again, surviving 95.1% of the time. You're only seeing a little bit of separation there on that purple and blue chart there up in the top left. So really, really good stuff. In terms of gunnery sensitivity, so the gunnery sensitivity is actually, it's not bad. It's pretty high, 0.74. That's closer to the upper end that we've seen. Now this particular mech at Gunnery 2, where we run the simulation, costs about 3690 BV. If you wanted to go higher, you're like cresting into the 4000s, but you can definitely see a substantial amount of damage increasing because of those big direct fire guns. So if you want to throw points at this mech, you can certainly do it. It may not be considering the survivability, considering it has ECM, this may not be a bad command mech. And in fact, it might be a perfect command mech. You still can reach out and hit things at 20 inches, which is fantastic. And if you have a really good gunner in there, Gunnery 1, or if you play low enough and you want to do a Gunnery 0 type hero character, this would be the mech, I think. I think this would definitely be the mech I would do that. So, I don't have much else to say about this thing except for when I think about 100-ton mechs and I think about how scary they're supposed to be, this checks all the boxes. I'm going to think about how I would play this thing on the battlefield outside of that sort of commander role, and let's take a look at all of that next. I'm going to blow your mind here. I only have one role for this mech. There's only one way I would play the Fafner. I want to direct your attention to the threat assessment first. This is very, very important. This is a life lesson that I will share with you. The heavy Gauss rifle, right, as you know, it has variable damage. At each range bracket, it does a different amount of damage. At long range, it does 10. At medium range, it does 20. At short range, it does 25. Here's the catch. Short range is 6 inches. All right, so you need to be at 6 inches to do 25 points of damage. Seems reasonable. However, as soon as you get to 4 inches or 4 hexes, you start incurring a minimum range penalty, right? So this is problematic. This is problematic because you have a very, very tiny window, right, to be at that 25 damage mark. You have a much broader and much safer window to be at the 20 damage mark, right? So basically anything from 13 to 7 inches, you can do 20 damage, and that's really, really good. If you can get to 6 or 5, even better. But as soon as you get to 4, right, you're struggling a little bit. 3, 2, 1, your damage starts to drop off, and then you're starting to roll the dice. Now, if you have a decent pilot, like in this simulation, it's based on a Gunnery 2 pilot, then, even at 1 inch, you're doing as much damage as you could at medium range, basically at that 13 inch. So if you look at the white bar, the zero heat ACD, which is the same as the regular ACD because this thing doesn't build up any heat, your average calculated damage, what you expect to do if you roll the dice, if you look at the white bar at 1 inch, you look at the white bars 13 to 7, they're relatively the same. However, if your pilot is worse, these might change a little bit. The moral of the story is, though, you can do as much damage basically at 13 inches with a half-decent dice roll as you can at 1 inch because of that minimum range penalty, right? So think about that as you're playing this mech. And that is why, my friends, I would only play this mech in a Vanguard role. I absolutely, 100%, unequivocally want to be at like 12 inches, with this mech. I want my ER medium lasers in range, and I want my Gauss rifles doing 20 points of damage each. I'm not going to go crazy to try to get that extra 5 points out of the heavy Gauss. I just want 20 points, because if you look at the long range bracket, you're doing 10 points, right, per rifle, and that's no good. Once you get to medium range, you're now doing 20 points per roll. You've doubled your damage output, so that's really important. So in that regard, I would play this mech in a Vanguard role, and that's the only place I would play it. I want to dictate where I'm going on the battlefield. I want to sprint in those early turns. I'm not going to stop and shoot at long range unless somebody's standing still and showing me their rear. Sounded weird. The only time I'm going to do that is if I have a very opportunistic shot. Let me put it that way. Otherwise, I am running to get this mech. I'm going to try to close that gap, 5 hexes, 5 inches every turn to get this thing into that 13 or better range. 12 is even more ideal because, again, you get the extra lasers in play. All right, so that's my lesson on the Fafner and how I would play this thing. In terms of firing arc, remember the little arms can spin around and shoot and behind you, which is kind of useful if something annoying gets in your rear arc. But you know, hopefully you have other mechs supporting you that can deal with that threat while you focus on much bigger and better things. And also, if you take my advice and you stay out of 13, 12, 11 inches, you know, that locust is going to have a hard time sprinting into your rear arc from there, right? Just keep your enemies, you know, give that cushion between you and your targets, and you'll be doing a ton of damage, and they'll have a hard time putting you, you know, on your heels, so to speak. Overall, really thrilled with the Fafner. Again, one of the highest output damage inner sphere mechs to date that we've looked at. It's got great survivability. The price tag is admittedly high, but you know what? I mean, that efficiency rating is pushing, you know, close to 8. That shows me that, you know, you will in fact get a return on investment here. Great command mech. It's got ECM on it, which has a ton of other hidden benefits that aren't factored into Battlytics, right? You know, disrupting all sorts of crazy streaks and Artemis and all that stuff. You can mess with all that stuff. So anyway, it's a pretty good mech. It's got a ton of survivability, and I think it's one that, you know, if I'm playing a big match with a lot of big mechs, this is one that I'm going to play 100%. And I have played it in the past, and I've had great success with it. So happy to see that the benchmarks at least support my experience. But anyway, guys, I'm all done. Wrapping this one up. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, don't forget to check out Aries Games and Minis. If you want to get some exciting new miniatures, new force packs, dice, novels, books, whatever you want, it's all over at Aries Games and Minis. And of course, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give us a like, tell your friends to watch, get your friends into BattleTech, have them buy stuff at Aries Games and Minis, and then have them subscribe again. It's the virtuous cycle of BattleTech life. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, guys, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a good night.